one of the Greek islands that features in the occupation issues. You know, all those stamps at the back of the book in the Scott catalog on Greece with N numbers. Let me show you first the item that inspired this. This is a recent acquisition of mine. It's not listed in Scott. It's a marking that was used in the early days of the Greek military occupation of Lemnos, right at the beginning of the First Balkan War in October of 1912. The reason it's not listed in Scott, you might ask, well, is this actually a stamp? Is it an overprint, or is it just a cancellation? My answer is it's both. As in many other cases, provisional markings, overprints of one kind or another, were used when military occupations began, when an administration changed, you know, from Turkish to Greek. The Greeks took available Turkish stamps and overprinted them, showing that it was under Greek occupation. And this mark seems to be used both for that purpose as also as a cancellation of the stamps. So that's my answer to the question, whether it's an overprint or a cancellation. It's what they call a negative marking, basically white lettering on a black background, something that was frequently used by the Ottomans. They have some beautiful negative cancellations. This one's kind of crude. It just says Greece. You can't really read the top word. It's Hellas, Greece, and then Lemnos on the bottom. Before getting started about Lemnos, about the way the occupation issues are listed in Scott. The numbers Scott N1 through N201 are all stamps that were issued or used during Greek occupation after the Balkan Wars, either the First or Second Balkan War. There are a few of them where the local Greek administration persisted and used special provisional overprints after 1913. But almost all of these stamps were 1912 and 1913. And the way Scott lists them is just basically in alphabetical order. So the ordering in the catalog really has nothing to do with the timing of, you know, when they were issued or when the various military occupations took place. Open the Scott catalog to the back of Greece. You see the first one is Chios, then there's Ikaria, Lemnos, Mytilene, Samos, and then it goes on to Turkey. But under Turkey, the stamps that are shown are ones that were used right at the beginning of the Greek administration and used on all of the islands. Greek stamps overprinted with Hellenic administration. And then after that come Kavala and Dedeak, which were towns on the mainland, not islands. So as is often the case with Scott, it's a bit of a head scratcher as to how they arrived at this ordering. Let me go on to a map here that shows where Lemnos is. They spell it Limnos here, a different transliteration. But it's here. It's a sort of a strategically located island in the middle of the Aegean Sea, part of the group of what they call the North Aegean Islands. This map shows the other groups. There are the Dodecanese down here, the Cyclades here, and the Ionian Islands off to the west. Here's a picture of Lemnos, one of many pictures you can find online. And the basic historical data, I'll go through this quickly. We have, starting with the earliest known occupation was by Persian Empire. Then it became part of the Greek Athenian League, part of Alexander's Empire, 322 BCE, part of the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, and finally, most recently, of the Turkish Empire from 1456 until 1912. Lemnos was the first of the Aegean Islands to fall to Greek forces after the start of the First Balkan War in October 1912. The Greek fleet with the battleship Averof as its flagship moored in Mudros Bay, October 6th. It's a little bit unclear exactly when to date the beginning of the First Balkan War. It was a collaboration between the Balkan allies, Serbia, Montenegro, Bulgaria, Greece, and they were the military forces of these countries were active in different areas. I believe the first one to declare war was Montenegro, but they were all working in different parts of the Turkish Empire, attempting to drive the Turks out, essentially. This is the battleship Averof, which was active in this particular area. On a couple of stamps, this stamp on the left is from the what they call the landscape issue, starting, it appeared in 1927. These stamps were used for a number of years. Many were printed. For the later printings, the Greek government went to different companies to renew the contract for printing of the stamps, and a re-engraved stamp was issued. I'm sure all of you worldwide collectors who have Greek stamps in your collection will be familiar with the difference between these, the original and the re-engraved stamp. There are many minor differences. It's really quite easy to tell which one is which. The re-engraved stamp is slightly taller, about 0.5 millimeter taller, and the engraving of the ship is much sharper. In particular, the vertical lines of the shading of the water below the ship are very clear on the reissued stamp, the re-engraved one. Also, the color is slightly different. It's a little more of a dull violet. Okay, so after that initial provisional marking that I showed you at the beginning, Greek stamps were overprinted for use on Lemnos. And here are some examples. There are a whole set of these stamps. The engraved and lithographic issues, which were the definitive issues used in Greece. I'm not going to show all of them, but I just wanted to show a few of the varieties of overprints that are available. The first two are on the engraved stamp, the one lepton engraved. And this exists in two different forms, one with toned paper, slightly greenish paper, and one on white paper. Same overprint. This one is on a lithographic stamp, and the following two are also on lithographic stamps. The problem with this stamp is this is almost certain to be a forgery. The overprint was extensively forged, and you can see there are slight differences. The center stamp has lettering that is slightly smaller, not quite as tall. The difference is very slight, but you can tell the difference here in the height of the letters. However, that's not really the way that I'm certain that it's a forgery. The stamp was issued on a series of different papers, 4 different periods of issue. So there are 4 different types of paper. And the overprint was only applied, according to my sources, to the first period paper. This is what they call 4th period paper. It's very easily identified by the type of gum on the back. According to my Greek catalog, the stamp was only overprinted on the early paper. So that would be confirming evidence that this must be a forged or counterfeit cancellation. The other 2 stamps show what is called red and carmine overprints. The carmine is a slightly darker shade of red, and these are actually separate issues, separately cataloged. Years ago, the Scott catalog didn't distinguish between red and carmine. Now they do, so the numbers have been altered. I have a catalog from 1963 that has different numbers for these stamps than the current numbers, because now they have separate listings for carmine. Here's an example of the Lemnos overprint together with the Hellenic administration overprint. It's the only stamp of this type known to have both. The overprints were authorized and carried out at very close to the same time, only a few days apart. And somehow the one lepton lithographed stamp acquired both overprints. Now here again, you see there's a difference between the lettering here. This one, the one on the right, is quite a bit taller. Once again, the papers are the key bit of evidence that you need to rely on to distinguish genuine from counterfeit overprints. And this one on the right, although the overprint is beautiful, the lettering is nice and crisp and clear, this is almost certain to be a forged overprint because it's on the wrong paper. The one on the left is the first period paper, which has smooth gum on the back. And the one on the right here is again, the fourth period paper, which has a very different kind of gum. So based on that, I would have to conclude that this is a counterfeit overprint. And you can see what a good job the counterfeiters did. It's actually a lot better than the original. The overprint was also done on this one value, the 20 lepta value of the flying Mercury stamps. Here's one with the correct upright overprint and pair with inverted overprint. One of many varieties. There are many collectible varieties of these inverted and doubled and so forth. Here's the overprint on 1 drachma, well, 1 drachma and 5 drachmae stamps. The 5 drachma stamp has a doubling of the overprint. And here again, both of these overprints on the right are in red as opposed to carmine, but the shade of the stamp is different. There's 2 varieties, ultramarine and gray blue. This image, by the way, the image on the stamp, has puzzled me. It's the large figure there is obviously Hermes. He's got his caduceus, the staff that he's holding in his hand, his winged helmet, the petasos it's called. This character that he's carrying is called Arkas, A-R-K-A-S, or sometimes A-R-C-A-S. And so I looked into it just to find out who is this character Arkas. Turns out that he's a rather obscure figure in Greek mythology, son of Zeus and the nymph Callisto. The reason he's on the stamp with Hermes is that he was born as a result of one of Zeus's many amorous adventures. And Zeus gave the child to Hermes to take him away, shall we say, for safekeeping, to avoid the wrath of Zeus's wife, Hera. Hermes was delegated to take the boy away to Maia, Hermes's mother, actually, who raised him. And eventually, Zeus made Arkas and his mother, Callisto, into stars. Callisto became what's known as the Great Bear, or Ursa Major, and Arkas is Ursa Minor, the small bear. Get back to stamps here now. These are some of the most valuable stamps in the series, Lemnos overprint in red and carmine. The one on the left, I believe it to be red. It's kind of faint and faded in its color, but I identify that as red, whereas the one on the right is carmine. I have to admit they're close in color, and it's possible that they're both carmine. Here's an example of a philatelically inspired cancellation. It's Lemnos 26 October 1912. Well, the trouble with that is before the overprints were done. The overprints were not authorized until November. I don't have the exact date. And by the way, there's always a question of whether we're talking about the new style dating or old style. The Julian calendar that the Greeks used was almost 2 weeks behind the Gregorian calendar that It was used almost everywhere else. But in any case, whichever it was, 26 October is way before the overprint was done. So it's a backdated cancellation, probably inspired for philatelic purposes. Here's one with a genuine, properly dated cancellation. Mudros is the top word there. Can't read the actual day, but it's sometime in January of 1913. And finally, these stamps were designed to take the place of the overprinted stamps, the overprinted Lemnos and the overprinted Hellenic administration stamps. They're known as the campaign issue of 1913. The cancellations are Mudron Lemnu is the way it appears in Greek, and Kastron Lemnu. The designs on these, there are two different designs on the set. On the left, you have what's known as the favorable eagle, or the eagle of Zeus. It seems to have a snake in its beak. And on the right is the vision of Constantine, the Emperor Constantine, who established the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire in Constantinople. En tuto nika means in this sign conquer, a vision that Constantine is supposed to have had before he actually converted to Christianity. This was part of the legend of his conversion. All right, that's it.